We're looking at a Facebook page called Busting the Myth of White Genocide in South Africa. I've been personally following this page since 2018. Okay, we're talking about, very similar to the video that Trump showed President Cyril Ramaphosa in the White House. That one was actually a footage in the Congo, but more on that later, and there's another video for that. This is the White Cross Monument. So if you've been believing the myth of white genocide in South Africa, you've probably been following images like this. And busting the myth of white genocide in South Africa was for a long time a lone voice speaking out against this. Okay, so let's have a look at more. This was the White Cross Monument a couple of years ago. Okay, the Suidlanders were at Witkruis, that is White Cross Monument, in Eysterberg this weekend, an important event. And Busting the Myth of White Genocide in South Africa says, the hill is dotted with over 40,000 white crosses. Many are unmarked and don't even correspond to a white farmer who was killed in a farm attack. Okay, far-right groups such as the Suidlanders, I've spoken about them in different videos, please do look them up, and AWB, that's AWB, gather at the monument. Alright, moving swiftly forward. We had pictures of Eugene Terreblanche. Now, Eugene Terreblanche was definitely not a farmer. Ask any South African of any age. He was a white nationalist leader. His nickname was Prime Evil. Okay, go and research that little symbol that you see there behind him. Don't trust me. Go do your own research and see what you find out. Eugene Terreblanche was not even buried on that hill, so the crosses were just symbolic. Okay. This man, Steve Hofmeyer, I do not have the patience or the time to tell you who this guy is. You look into him yourself. But they're holding, and look at the body language gives it all away, hey? Which finger he's holding up there? Adriana Stoat. Okay, first of all, Stoat is not a normal surname in South Africa. We know exactly which surnames are Boere surnames and which ones don't typically come from there, okay? So this woman named Adriana Stoat was passed away in the Netherlands and was not a farmer. They put up a cross for her because she had a website that spread white genocide myth in the early 2000s, and it was called the Censor Bugbear. Not even South African. Never mind a farmer. Okay? Some of the crosses remember white people who fell victim to farm murders. Okay, there is a crime crisis. We have spoken about it extensively on this channel now. But most crosses are blank and not linked to any murders. They're just blank. It's simply to make the monument look bigger. Okay, so just that you understand, guys, this is a country of 60 million people. Only 10% of them are white. I think it's actually 8% now. Really, like, how hard do you think a genocide would be given those numbers? Make it make sense. Okay, but again, don't take my word for it. Go check out Busting the Myth of White Genocide in South Africa. And the top 5 myths about farm murders. Farm murders never reported by any media. Trump did want to talk about that. Let me see what this is all about. Okay, let's have a look. Look at that. Nobody's talking about the Kebe family. 30th of July 2020. They received 3 news articles. Okay, here's the Brunt family. 26th of July. Farm murder. They received over 70 news articles. I wonder why. Why did the Kebe family only receive 3? Okay, top 5 myths about farm murders. Myth 2. Most farm murders are because of Malema and his songs. Correlation does not imply causation when it comes to connecting songs to farm murders. There were more farm murders in the 5 years before Malema sang that song than the 5 years after. Okay? So have a look for yourself there. Cool. From the Transvaal Agricultural Union. Okay? Myth 1. A typical farm murder contains hours of brutal torture. Okay. AfriForum found that 4% of farm attacks that occurred in 2019 contained torture. People usually respond with the comments by posting strong, gory images with the caption, "What about this?" Posting cherry-picked anecdotal evidence of gory images spread over a time span of years does not prove that it represents a trend or a pattern. Townships. Family in Marikana, so that will be a black family, Shoshanguve, was tortured for hours with a hot iron by thugs, for example. Criminals do this to force people to give up belongings, not purely because of the race of the victims. Okay? That doesn't receive any attention. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, but loading more myths. Okay, African Americans, Statelanders, what? Californians, Boerzonia, Oranians, Ghanaboers, Amerikaners, the refugees, the the Voortrekkers, the Macboers, the Afrikaners. Oh my gosh, guys, you're not serious.
Afrikaners?
Baby, it says African Americans, Statelanders, as in Statelanders, Californians, Boerzonia, Oranians, Ghanaboers, Amerikaners, the refugees, the Voortrekkers, the Macboers, and the Afrikaners. Busting does not play. It does not play. No one has a problem with Afrikaners moving to America. The problem is the lies they told about us to get there. Why white Afrikaners being persecuted? Here's your very own Busting the Myth of Afrikaner refugees toolkit. If these Afrikaners are so special and very hardworking, why couldn't they apply for regular visas just like everyone else? Ooh, I've got a lot to say about that. Refuge, please. Trump, help. Oh my gosh. Babe, we have to do a reaction video with our faces on this. Oh, look at that. Look at that, huh? Report potholes. Okay. Anyway, guys. Orania. Hands off Orania. What's this? Remember when Petrus was fighting the EFF to defend Orania? He put down his plasmoorde cross to take up yet another great cause. As one of only 2 black people fighting for Orania, he even stopped well outside the town and only filmed the sign out of respect for Orania laws. Takes you back to the good old days when people knew their place. Literally buy a donkey, please. Buy a donkey there. Oh my gosh. Okay, I want to do a longer reaction video on this. But, yeah. I basically recommend Afrikaans celebrates 100 years as an official South African language. Oh, look at that. Yes, well, that was the other day. Okay. And then over here, posts on farm murders committed by the wives and family of the victim are not meant to deny that the murders happen. They show that farm murders are not special crimes, but instead part of the greater crime wave affecting South African. In February 2025, we made a long listing of all the farm murders we could find that were committed by wives and close families of the victim. When the story staged on farm murders was picked up by the news articles and began to circulate, many Afrikaner community were expectantly enraged. They felt these posts were attempting to hide the racially driven genocidal slaughter they are convinced is happening. Unless they want to accept the families who killed the farmers were inspired by Malema's songs, the reality is farm murders are not caused by any single issue. Like all murders, they are driven by a myriad of social issues. So why the rage? Because many white South Africans are taught that they are special and endangered breed in this country. Many have thus been raised to fear the majority. How? Many in the white community still believe in the apartheid era tales, such names as the Night of the Long Knives or the Massive Onslaught. These stories warned of the day when millions of blacks will rise up and kill the much fewer whites in their homes. This is pure fantasy, archaic, racist nonsense that the apartheid government used to keep white South Africans under control. It is from these fears that many whites believe that there's a white genocide. A fear so real in their minds that the genocide is already happening. The fact that South Africa is one of the highest murder rates in the world adds flesh to these fears. The vulnerability of lone farmers, the Afrikaner's spiritual cultural homestead, makes farm murders feels like an existential threat, not just a regular crime. Stories of wives and families committing these heinous crimes completely undermines the narratives of victimhood and special status that the Afrikaners hold about themselves. It makes them question whether they are chosen ones sitting above the so-called barbarity that surrounds them. One cannot understand the internal threat when they are always taught to fear the external enemy. Their racism prevents them from accepting the truth. And the truth is, there is nothing special about white people or the Afrikaner farm murders are hideous crimes, just like all other murders. We are all equal. The sooner white South Africans can let go of the apartheid fears and accept the simple fact, the better for all of us. And so, yeah, I believe that Busting the Myth of White Genocide in South Africa is actually a white run page, just based on their approach and everything. And I'm glad they pointed that out. I do want to leave you with this thought. Did you know that while other kids around the world went to summer camp, white South Africans, just a bit older than me, used to go to racism camp? They literally had to learn about something called swart gevaar, that is black danger, Joodse gevaar, that is Jewish danger, Roy Gevaar, that is Russian danger, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so bear that all in mind. Do go and check out the page, Busting the Myth of White Genocide in SA. They do a phenomenal job. And I think I'll have them more on my channel in future. This was just a taster. As usual, this has been Nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty, even if it's shitty. And as usual, the xenophobia myth is exactly the same thing as the white genocide myth. It is people who want to victimize black South Africans by playing the victim themselves and tearing down the character of black South Africans, and that ain't cool. Don't do it. Be cool. Be lacquer. But y'all know that the whole white genocide myth, it runs much deeper and is even more racist and even more unfair. But we'll talk about that later. Until then, mind your business. Let South Africans mind their South African business. Nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty, even if it's shitty, and ciao for now.